Welcome back to Tansson TV Plus. I hope you're doing well. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Mom. Thank you guys for joining us again today. Today we're going to talk about the show Batman.
Yes, this is the original series from 1966, of course, produced by 20th Century Fox. And so we're very excited to go ahead and head right into it.
Oh, yeah, we sure are. First of all, this is our first time watching Batman, which is wonderful. And I would say that I was kind of intrigued. Although I've seen the show from bits and pieces, I was intrigued to see the first episode. And so let's start by saying that in general what this particular episode was about Batman and Robin both, as you know, they were called in to help when the Riddler arrived one day at a party per se, and some events kind of occurred and dangerous things that kind of occurred at this particular party. And then Batman and Robin were called to kind of save the day and actually to see what the Riddler really wanted. And so that, in essence, actually is the first two episodes. The Riddler kind of showed his way and how devious he was in the first two episodes, and so Batman and Robin, of course, were proved to be the heroes, as you can imagine, in this particular episode.
Yeah, and I will note, too, that this is actually two episodes. So the series aired two episodes a week when it originally debuted. And so you had one episode for part one and another episode for part two. And it was like that for the whole series.
Yes, it was. I will say, Brandon, I was surprised. To me, it seemed like a quick view. I don't know what you thought when you first told me an hour. I thought, oh gosh, this is going to be really long and tedious that I have to sit and watch Batman for an hour. But I was really surprised that it seemed like it was to me a quick hour.
Yeah, it definitely was a quicker hour than most shows. I mean, of course, combining the first two episodes. And so I personally thought it was quite interesting, especially analyzing everything and just sort of the way that the show presents itself.
Yes, yes, I was surprised too. And then, of course, I kind of had some preconceived notions about the show in general, just because, I'd only seen bits and pieces throughout the years. I've never actually sat down to watch the whole show. And so it was interesting to hear about some of the history of the characters, how they indicated that Robin was kind of a ward and that Batman actually took care of him and that they both had well, we know they have other lives, but they kind of had some other real political lives that they had, and I was surprised at how young Robin was.
Yeah, and I don't know if they've actually said the age per se, but apparently just not enough to go in to the weird club that Batman goes into at the first episode.
Yeah, apparently he was not able to go into a club, but he could drive. But at the same time, Batman had to help him with his algebra homework. So it's an odd state, and there's apparently an aunt there too that we didn't quite get a lot of information about. So, like you said, it just kind of interesting setting.
Yeah, and not to mention their butler Alfred.
Yes, of course, they had a butler. And can we talk about some of the things I just thought was kind of fascinating about the show?
Yeah, go right ahead.
All right. One of the things I thought was kind of fascinating was really about the technology that was there, because the show itself, like you said, I think took place well, it was recorded in 1966, but of course there's some futuristic aspects of the show, and so first of all, they had a car phone, which of course at that time was not common whatsoever, and so there was a car phone there. They had a bat scope, which in essence meant that Robin was able to watch Batman while he was in the bar with the group since he couldn't go in. And of course, no one said anything about the internet or anything like that. However, but he did have an antenna that went up as he began watching it. Um, they had an anti-fire detector in the car that was able to stop the fires as occurred, because of course their car did catch on fire. Well, someone helped it along. Um, they had a homing transition, or at least Robin had a homing transmission, and this was on his belt itself. There was a bat laser beam that I guess melted things. They talked about a projector that was there. And then what I found really interesting is that their computer was the car was a computer, which is a mobile crime computer, which I found really, really interesting. And they made the comment that they used an automatic radio link. So futuristic internet. So that was actually fun to watch to see all these things that were there. And then in regards to a phone, they also had a red hotline phone too.
Yeah, and I will note too that for the computer, there is a separate computer, on the Batmobile itself, from what I believe, and the computer in the Batcave has to send it to the computer in the Batmobile. Oh, as times changed.
Yes, it sure has. It sure has. So I was while watching, became, like I said, really fascinated about the technology that was taking place itself.
Yeah, I definitely think that the technologies were just so interesting, and it's interesting to see how it all comes to play. But I think what's even more fascinating and perhaps even intriguing is the dialogue and the main villain of the two-part episode.
Yeah, the Riddler. Well, like you said, he spoke in riddles, and so yeah, that was interesting. And no one could get those riddles. They would, yeah, they were the type of riddles where it takes a lot of thought, and it's really just plays well with the show itself.
Yeah, although I did want to touch on a little bit for some things that I thought were kind of intriguing in the first go round viewing, and definitely also in the second. Is the first episode had a big sort of aha moment where the Riddler caught them.
Yes, he did. He said he caught them. Brandon, I'll let you explain the caught part.
Yeah, so the Riddler, comes up with a plan to stop Batman, and he does his devious crime of handing Batman a lawsuit.
Yes, for $1 million. So I see that has not changed.
I never would have thought that the big bad villain would hand the hero the lawsuit, but uh, I suppose that that works out well. Although we can obviously see that, of course, there's more up the Riddler's sleeve, but nevertheless, I found that quite amusing that that was sort of the big aha aha moment halfway through the episode.
Yes, yes. And so, what other things were you intrigued about, Brandon?
Well, of course, you have the just the general plot that the Riddler is trying to do something. We couldn't figure out what it is, but within the second episode, we do find out that's all part of the Riddler's plans to take diamonds and postage stamps.
Yeah, which is an odd combination, which were hidden in animals, some sort of animal, not a real animal, but I mean hidden in some sort of animal at a party.
Yeah, and what were your thoughts about that? That was the main thing that the Riddler had been going after, for these whole two episodes.
Well, I understand the jewels. I was having an issue with the stamps, so I said those must have been some impressive stamps that they had.
Yes, as Batman said, they are. I mean, just valuable stamps, and so you have to get them all from the art gallery, and so it definitely was interesting with that. But we are introduced to a potential love interest for Batman.
Oh yeah, we are. We are introduced to a character named Molly. Molly doesn't quite make it out of the episode. I'm sorry if it's a spoiler, but but she does potentially have a love interest that could have been there. But I mean, we saw Batman dancing with Molly.
Yeah, and sure enough, then we have Molly just sort of uh, falling into a nuclear reactor thing.
Yes, and which was weird. But yes, we did. So, like I said, she didn't quite make it out of this episode. And what was also, of course, at the end with the Riddler, and no surprise here, the Riddler is not caught because I'm sure he'll be appearing in other shows.
Yeah, and I mean, I thought the episode was interesting. When it ended, I thought really sort of brought a sort of theme to this is when Batman offered to help Robin out with his algebra.
Yeah, that about did me in today. I mean, when you see if you watch the show and you see Robin, who looks much older, which I know is normal, but for him to be playing like he's minimum 16, max 18.
Yeah. But in all seriousness, no, though, as much jokes as we're putting on the show, I thought it was kind of humorous to go through it, and honestly, I really like the way that Adam West and Burt Ward were portraying Batman and Robin, just because it felt a little bit more like genuine, that like this is truly how they are, and that like I don't know, it just feels kind of genuine and sort of in place, as odd as that sounds.
Yeah, no, I think they did a really great job working together, and I like the butler also. Now the aunt, on the other hand, she kind of blended in. I didn't quite realize it. It was the second go around before I realized that the aunt was there, but the butler kind of fit in also.
Yeah, definitely Alfred, I think, is indispensable, for the group. But throughout the episode, I kind of like the little catchphrases that they have with, like Robin saying stuff like "Holy smokes" and Batman. I don't know. I just really like the way that like Adam West's voice is in it, and how he's saying very silly things, but in a very serious but somewhat questionable tone. Like
Yeah,
like it's like, well, it's like so and so is happening and the crime's about to happen and we have to do it this way.
yeah. I did like the end of the first episode because they had questions and they asked, "Will this happen? Will that happen?" And so that was kind of fun to watch to see what kind of questions they had at the end of the episode. And Brand, I don't know if you want to mention it or not. You kind of mentioned that there were times when they were normal 2 episodes, back to back while it was airing.
Yeah, I mean, regularly, they had these I mean, like I said, these two-parters, and so every week, no matter what week it was, it always aired 2 episodes a week.
Yeah. So I guess you were just kind of left. You're just kind of left dangling for 5 minutes, and then then we can see how it ends.
But yeah, but Mom, how's the theme song?
Oh, theme song's really good. Well, I should say really good. It is recognizable. I mean, everyone kind of knows Batman, and so it is catchy. It fits the show. They have little cartoon images that kind of come up at the same time.
Yeah, and similarly, for a little connection, is that yeah, the superhero show Wonder Woman also has an animated little title sequence, and of course, both series are based off of the characters from the DC comics.
Yes, yes, they are.
But Mom, is there anything else that you have for from this Batman series from 1966?
No, Brandon, but it has been fun kind of watching some of these superhero ish type of shows that we've been watching as they kind of look at common themes and things like that. So no, I really enjoyed this episode.
Yeah, and would you watch Batman again?
Probably not, but if it's on, I will look at it. But to go and watch it on a regular basis, I probably will not go and look at it on a regular basis.
Yeah, and I will say that probably likewise for me as well. But I will say from doing the research a little bit from the reputation and production sort of status with the legacy though, is that apparently this series up until about 2007 ish was the longest running live action superhero show.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting to know.
And so it's interesting to sort of find out tidbits about that, and of course, the actors for Batman and Robin, of course, continued their portrayals and doing parodies and whatnot of their roles. Yeah, from decades to come. I think the latest one actually being 2019.
Oh wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, so it's certainly interesting to see that this show has a long legacy, but I think it's honestly well deserved, and I'd be interested to see some later portrayals of I mean of this Batman and Robin duo, and yeah, but I mean I think it's just really cements the show in there for classic superheroes.
Yeah, I think so too, Brandon.
Well, as we're closing out, what would you say overall have been your thoughts about these superheroes as we're closing out this discussion?
Well, and I know not all of them aired yet, but it's been fun kind of looking at a particular genre and just kind of see how the superheroes are kind of presented. We're very used to Marvel and how Marvel presents themselves. So it's been nice to kind of see how others present themselves, and especially with the time difference between it, meaning that the years that it aired. And so, as we're watching things that were made in the 60s and 70s, and the difference between how it is perceived now. And sometimes there's not much of a difference. The technology, interestingly enough, is kind of matching a little bit because they're kind of doing some of the future things that we're doing at this time period.
Yeah, so it's definitely interesting seeing how, I mean, it all grows and evolves. But Mom, I always love doing these discussions with you, and I'm excited for us to keep going with these first episode in superhero shows.
I am too. And in the comments, let us know what your favorite superhero show is.
Yeah, and is there a favorite one that you have that we missed? Let us know.
Yes, please let us know.
Well, Mom, until next time, I hope that you have a great day, and the same for those viewing.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us today.
And we'll see you next time.
All right. Bye bye, everybody.